Hey everyone, it's Blendi Muriqi. I recently joined Brian Keane on his franchise radio show to talk about AI and remote staffing, two game changers for scaling businesses in 2024. I wanted to share this on the Sip and Scale podcast because it fits right into our discussions on growing smarter and delegating better. This interview is packed with insights on using tech and remote talent to scale efficiently. Let's dive in.
Hello everyone, Brian here from the Franchise Radio Show, and Franchise Simply delighted to have you here. Always enjoy these conversations and very fortunate that our team manages to harness some great people to talk to, and today's no exception. Today I've got a fascinating individual to introduce you to, and to someone that started a very contemporary company I think everyone will be interested in. Certainly a field you need to be aware of. We're talking about AI. And we're talking about diffusing the terror around AI in some respects, and about how you can use it so efficiently to expand your business and to reduce your expenses. So Blendi Muriqi is an expert in the space of AI, revolutioning, I suppose, remote staffing solutions across a whole range of industries. You name it, he works in that space. He is a serial entrepreneur. He's very innovative, and his journey started at high school when he first co-founded his first business, which was to improve processes. So this early experience of his was obviously successful, and it sparked his passion for efficiency and technology, he tells me. So at Delegate.co, the business he founded, his mission and his, I suppose, is to empower businesses to scale and to succeed on a global scale by the clever use of tailored virtual assistant solutions. And it really is a big step towards the future. I know most of us probably have PA or overseas assistants of some kind, but the reality is that market's changing just as quickly as our contemporary local market, wherever you may be, North America, Europe, Australasia, etc., or Southeast Asia. So leveraging AI is what Delegate Co, I suppose, lead in. And they automate the tasks, which improves your client's experience. And we all know that's what people are looking for, service, and it boosts your bottom line, which is what entrepreneurs are looking for. We love that bottom line. So allowing businesses to focus on their core activities, and that's the key to it all. So he's dedicated really to creating opportunities for remote professionals, particularly helping them grow both personally and professionally. He really is an innovative leader, and he's transforming the remote staffing landscape. So we're out there with someone that's, I think, leading the pack, no question about it, and making a real impact on businesses and virtual assistants around the road. Blendi, welcome to our Franchise Radio Show.
Thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate that introduction. I'm looking forward to a productive conversation.
The title of this conversation is How to Grow Your AI-Enabled Team. So I suppose let's start at the beginning. You gave us a bit of your background at high school where you got started into the world of entrepreneurialism. So what inspired you to start Delegate Co? And I suppose, what about your early entrepreneurial sort of experiences? What gave you the initiative, the drive, and the confidence to do it?
I think it all stems from curiosity. And when I was in high school, my best friend and I, we had to do community service in order to graduate from high school in New York, an hour north from New York City, where I grew up. They had a 40-hour requirement in order to graduate. And the process at the time was still using pen and paper, getting signatures in order to sign off on your community service hours. So my friend and I, we meet together after school and come up with business ideas and look at challenges that we were facing in our personal lives. And we realized that this system was so inefficient. And it was 2013. And to think at that time, like they weren't even using Excel to keep track of their community service hours. And the schools were having a hard time keeping track of it as well, the administrators. So we came together within a 3-month period. We produced a beta version of this site just to have our school use it. And then we realized that it was working very well. And I remember it was our last year of high school, and our school saw, I guess, that it was doing well. So they actually gave us permission to leave school the last period of the day and go from high school to high school and pitch volunteer access to other school administrators. At that time, it's a lot easier to get meetings with potential clients because you have that like adorable factor They're like, oh, come on in. Like, we'll listen to your cute little idea. But a lot of these schools, they realize, wow, this is actually something that's a need. That was the first taste of entrepreneurship for me. I still, in the back of my head, thought that I was going to go to college and go to law school and become a lawyer. That was always like my priority. And then in college, I got the opportunity to work for a real estate investment firm as an intern. And then eventually in my last year, they offered me a full-time position, and I had just applied to law schools. I was planning on going to law school. And I remember my old boss coming to me and saying, law school's always going to be there, but if you come work with me, you'll learn a thing or two about business. And I'm pretty sure after a year, you won't want to go to law school. And he was right. I got very obsessed with business operations, and I became an operations manager at the company and then became the chief operating officer of the real estate firm in short order. But I was doing everything myself. I was handling the whole operation myself, and it was becoming so burdensome to my health, my stress levels. That's when a friend of mine told me about just the benefits of using overseas staffing solutions or outsourcing. So I started looking into hiring from places like the Philippines and building teams for our firm. That light bulb sprung up. I realized, wow, this is something that not just my firm needs, but other firms around the world can utilize. That's how the idea of Delegate really came about. It came about out of my own personal necessity, and then realizing like friends, other people in the business community, they were looking for customer service solutions, and they came to me for hiring and recruiting.
I think a lot of us, or most of us, can relate to some of the circumstances that Blendi found himself in there with that business of his, where he was just too tied to it and he ended up being stressed and really being stretched like a rubber band. Hey, isn't that a familiar feel? So let's see how he climbed himself or climbed his way out of that. So perhaps you can give us a little bit of some of the insights on and how you did that and grew this into what's now, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is a 7-figure business that you've got today, Blendi. What sort of stuff do you use,
The go-to-market strategy is very funny. So at the time, I had a few friends and contacts of the Hasidic Jewish population. And for any listeners that know Shabbos, the Sabbath, you can't work on Friday nights and Saturdays. And so I had a few of these friends, contacts come to me and say, hey, listen, we have this multi-million-dollar operation, but we go offline on Fridays and Saturdays and there's no one to pick up the phone. And it started with one guy, and then he told his friend and he told his friend. So there was a little bit of a network effect in the beginning. I became known as like the guy that handles customer service for them on the weekends. And then eventually they brought on our teams full time. I mean, in the beginning it was like that, but then eventually, you have to build out sales process. You have to build out a marketing plan. We, at the beginning, because we didn't have really a foothold in the market, we had to offer people very long trials to show them the benefits of using overseas talent. And then, that paid off. And now our growth is in founder first branding, being able to brand our company online and work with influencers in the business community to expand our name. We rebranded to Delegate because we were looking for a name that really fits the mold of who we are. We had to also invest heavily in the branding, and the delegate.co is not a cheap domain to buy.
I imagine. This is amazing. I was staggered. I thought, how on earth did you get hold of that?
We wanted to come up with something that people will obviously remember, and something that's synonymous with an action that everyone in the business community, whether you're a small or medium-sized business or a large enterprise, you should be not taking your time for granted. And I always think that we have different levers in our businesses. We have technology, we have human capital, we have financial capital, and we have the leverage of time. And so some people don't leverage technology. Other people, they don't like leveraging human capital and building teams that can actually help move the ball forward. Right now, in this transition period where technology is flourishing, AI is flourishing, we're trying to like meet people there in the middle and provide them the human capital as well as, the technological capital to make their business succeed.
Look, and that's the big gap in the market at the moment. Everywhere I look, there are entrepreneurs out there with great ideas, but in a lot of cases, they won't delegate. Is that word again? Because they won't let go. And that's because they have a fear of what's ahead, but also because they just don't trust other people. So overcoming those couple of hurdles alone, you're very fortunate. You're a child of IT almost. I mean, literally, you were born into the internet world. So whereas, a lot of business people still, that was only something that they picked up in their earlier or mid-career. So from your point of view, coming from your background, I suppose that's the big advantage I see in speaking to you, is that this language was one you were fluent in when you started on your journey at high school. So when AI came along, and seriously came along a couple of years ago now, from your point of view, how did that impact you? Most people, and I include myself, sort of faced a bit of uncertainty or a bit of fear. What's going to happen with this? Is it going to impact on me? Is it real, or is it just something artificial that's going to look sort of false and so forth? So how did you navigate your way through that, Blendi, if that whole mix of questions can actually be pulled into one for you?
Our business a year ago, I realized, so there were a lot of companies in our space, a lot of our clients that they were looking into a lot of different AI solutions, specifically to streamline customer service. And when I started seeing all these startups spring up, I was fearful in many ways because it got me thinking, wow, in a few years' time, if this continues to advance, there's not going to be a need for call centers. There's not going to be a need for human assistance because AI will do everything for you. And so I had to do the internal calculus and ask myself, well, do I want to just wait and see what happens? Or do I want to make a strategic play and work with AI and not against it? And the short answer is it came out of necessity. There are a lot of companies, they don't necessarily need to innovate because they're comfortable, they're doing well. But the reality is, if you're not paranoid, then someone's going to come and eat your lunch. I didn't want my lunch eaten. So we made a strategic decision to start partnering with various AI companies, making strategic partnerships with AI companies. So our assistants that we provide to businesses have the leverage to continue to support their business, but the amount of investment, the amount of manpower needed for an operation is a lot less. So to give you an analogy, in shipping, they call it last mile shipping. It's the most complicated part of the shipping journey where you have to take item from point A to point B. With logistics, that last mile is often the most complicated, getting it to your doorstep. The way I look at the next few years is AI solutions are going to streamline 80% of workflows. However, there's going to be that last 20% that requires a creative, competent, critical thinking human being, whatever the position is, operations, marketing, you still need that human being. And we want to be there to provide those staffing solutions to companies when they get to that point.
No, I appreciate that. It's a great analogy. It makes total sense. And of course, and none of us want to let go completely. I mean, what's our point of difference is that we're there, we're people, we can communicate, we can create empathy with people, etc., and make some of those decisions, which might be a bit like yours, a little bit different, a little bit like outside the envelope sort of thing. So I suppose, how did you leverage your AI sort of solution? How did you improve the efficiency and so forth when you started implementing these processes? You obviously sounds like you looked pretty broadly at the marketplace and what was on offer. So you did a thorough, which is what appeals to me and why I'm talking to you now, is because we're trying to stand on your shoulders, Blendi. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, definitely. There are other companies that will take the approach and decide like we're going to build these tools in-house. And I took a different approach where I said, well, what we want to do is we want to go to the marketplace and find AI companies that are already creating these products and incorporate them into our workflows. So I'll give you an example. Like, we have a lot of clients in the real estate space and the hospitality short-term rental space. If you run a large hospitality hotel company, you need 24/7 guest services. It's commonplace. If you came to me 2 years ago, what I would do is I would source a team of customer service assistants for the operation, and they would be working around the clock. Now, when we're getting approached by clients, we let them know, listen, this is the tech stack that we would recommend, almost like a consultant. We're consultants in the space providing consultation on what tools that they should use. And by the way, we have these assistants that are trained and ready to use these tools for you. So you don't need 15 of them. You only need 2 or 3 of them, and they can run the whole customer service operation for your hotel or short-term rental company, whatever the application is.
That sounds very attractive, I've got to say. So I suppose, could you give us a little bit of your philosophy, experience about the relationship between this very tricky space, I suppose, of delegation and automation, of retaining that key element, as you said? People will always, one hopes.
One of the beautiful things about AI and this technology that's advancing currently is there's this misconception that it's going to remove the humanity out of business. But I disagree with that. I think it's going to incorporate more humanity into business processes and operations. If you can remove all of the redundant tasks and workflows out of your business operation, then it just leaves room for just intimate, if we're talking about customer service, for example, it leaves room for really intimate, empathetic conversations. We've all had situations where we're on the phone with customer service agent, for example, and we're just stressed because they're taking on hundreds of calls and they're stressed and they don't have the bandwidth to deal with that much call load. If we're able to remove 80% of that now, you're actually building relationships with your clients, for example. It leaves room for creativity. So I see in the marketing space, we provide marketing assistance to business owners, small to medium-sized businesses. Our marketing assistants now, what would have taken them 3 hours to edit a video, or in this case, like a podcast, for example, it's taking them a fraction of the time, and it's allowing them the time and bandwidth to focus on the creativity element of what they're producing because they're not constrained by time like they used to be. The philosophy is that first and foremost, you're trying to leverage this technology as a tool to make you more creative and to allow you to be more human in what you do. If I can use technology to remove 80% of the BS in my schedule, then I can focus on actually having these one-on-one conversations with clients, building my network and growing my business.
I'll pick up a couple of points here. So, by the way, I'm talking to Blendi Muriqi today, how to grow your AI-enabled team. And we're well through a conversation really digging into quite a bit of the background of Blendi and the way he's created his extraordinary business, Delegate Co. So tell me, you're telling us a little bit about your experience of how this sort of evolved and the impact that you're seeing it have with your customers. What sort of challenges did you face? Because I think this is what's discouraging a lot of people from taking this step. So if you're able to bridge that for them, bridge that gap, then that's what has the attraction. So perhaps you could explain a little bit about that and, as I say, what those challenges were and how you solved them. Because at the end of the day, it's solving the issues that gives us that opportunity to be a bit more creative and empathetic and so on.
I think in terms of companies are going to be apprehensive to adopt AI technology. I think where we come in is basically holding their hand along the way and saying, like, we're going to be strategic partners with you in actually helping you bring these tools into the fold. And the direction that we're going in is every one of our assistants, they have even just at the basic level, they have a prompt engineering background. So they're able to at least streamline processes using prompt engineering with programs like ChatGPT. So the way I look at it is like when we're partnering with a company and they apprehensive to utilize AI, it's fine. We're going to be there to hold your hand along the way, but in the end, you're going to save a lot more money, and you're going to have staff that can actually let you breathe within your business.
I like that. The opportunity to breathe. Pressure off.
But we all need to breathe. It's so amazing, Brian, that like I come across business people every single day that I talk to. They're at 5 million, 10 million a year ARR, and they are still doing the same tasks and responsibilities they did like 15 years ago, 10 years ago. They're still handling email the same. I mean, they may have been forced to advance certain things in their business. And I just think to myself, I'm like, you are so successful, but you have so much potential to work on the business and not in the business if you just let go.
Absolutely. Nobody recognizes it. This is the thing. It's very compelling. I think everyone has to agree on that one. So people are concerned about, how you maintain, I suppose, continuity, discipline, how you get compliance and so forth. How do you ensure that your virtual assistants that you provide meet the needs and expectations of different industries? Because this is the other thing, having an understanding, all of our businesses are different in our own mind, not a common ground, but nevertheless, how do you ensure that you get that those expectations are met across the field?
So from a staffing standpoint, it comes down to having a very rigorous recruiting process. And I think a lot of people that are listening, they can appreciate that hiring is one of the hardest parts of growing a business. We have a pool of thousands of potential hires within our talent pool, and we tap into that. And by the end of an interview process, a sourcing process, we're down to the top 1% of talent that we hire. So when you do that, you're ensuring quality. The other thing is, I think it starts with listening. So if you're asking me, like, how do you ensure quality? First starts with listening to your customer, listening to your client. If you're a business owner and you need an executive assistant, for example, what is it that is keeping you up at night? What is it that is causing stress, not in just your professional life, but your personal life? And then what is your management style? What is your personality like? These are questions that we use when we're interacting with clients to find the best team for them. Because not every business owner is the same. You have to find someone that's just like you find a partner in life that's compatible with you. You need to find team members in life that are going to be compatible with you, your business. So the short answer is it's a lot of vetting on our end to get us to the top 1% of talent that we place with our clients.
I suppose looking at it, our listeners, let's say, colleagues they may pass this information on to, and I certainly invite them to do that. What sort of advice would you give to other entrepreneurs like yourself, and maybe looking at a generation or two older than yourself, Blendi, because that's the area I think that dominates the need, particularly for the sorts of services you provide? Well, they're not by intention, but locked a little bit in a time warp of really a decade ago or more. From that point of view, I mean, what advice we can give them, especially in this field of staffing? You've just been giving me a bit of background of the processes you use to select the right 1%, the personality I, for example, have, and what my expectations are. Can I hand the mic over to you?
It's funny you mentioned this because when you're scaling a company, you look for your ideal customer profile. So that ideal customer profile with us is usually like it's the younger generation that are a lot more open to remote work, and they're used to working with someone remotely via Zoom, for example. That has been, I'll be honest with you, that has been a little bit of a struggle for us, is tapping into the older demographic that may not necessarily be inclined to look into staffing outside of their local office. My advice would be look at what your needs for like any hire would be. If it's in your local office or if it's overseas, what are the qualities you're looking for? And just know that those qualities that you're looking for, they're out there in the world. I always say that I live in New York, and if I lived in the bubble of New York and I could only hire within the city of New York, I'm constraining myself to just that city when there's 8 billion people on this planet that we can tap into. There's so many smart, intelligent people out there that are hungry to work, and they're hungry to help your vision come to fruition. If you're open to that, you're opening yourself up all these doors that you didn't see in the past could be open.
I think that's a very interesting point, because it is, you say, door opens, you look at it, you've got a different vision, and suddenly your creative mind starts working, which is why you need to free yourself up and delegate yourself from the handful of information and issues and tasks you are hanging on to for grim death, because you're the only one.
Yeah, and just to make this clarification, I think there's also this misconception that business owners have that if I'm delegating, I'm letting go. And I like to make the clarification that you're letting go in the sense that you're letting go of that task being owned by you, and you're going and you're owning the bigger picture tasks and responsibilities. I just had this business owner that I spoke to the other day, and he has been for the last 3 years. He owns a very large roofing company. They do $25 million a year. And for the last few years, his phone is constantly on. He's constantly taking phone calls left and right. He's never had an assistant. Because of that, his mind is always all over the place. And because his mind is all over the place, he cannot focus on going to private equity firms that are interested in purchasing his company, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to sell the company and retire. But he's so focused right now on the business that he can't do that. So the big picture is like allowing you to work on the business and not in the business.
Totally. It's our old friend Michael Gerber popping his head up again with the E-Myth that really is, well, only a few years ago was voted the most popular business book that's ever been written. So, and that's the whole point we're talking about is, until you manage to delegate, to leverage, you're going to be in it, boy. But the key is, as you said, a very salient point, around the world, there are 8 billion people. There are lots of people with lots of skills. There are always going to be lots of people who can fill the roles that you're looking to fill. Your skill is actually sorting those and delegating. So you're going to increase the power of your authority and of your potential. And really, this is what it's about. It's about unleashing the potential, I think. If you look at a lot of the big corporations, people like Unilever, for example, they've got 3,000 companies, Unilever, and they started off in the sort of soap business, believe it or not. I mean, that was basically what they did, was domestic soaps and so on. Today, it's 3,000 businesses, but what they do is delegate every CEO to make their own decisions, run their own business, virtually within some guidelines. And that's why they got a huge corporation worth billions and billions of dollars that everybody respects and looks at as an example.
100%. Look at Richard Branson, Virgin Airlines. I remember reading somewhere, he was asked, you have this conglomerate. How do you run it? He's like, it's very simple. I go to X industry and I find the best person there, and I find the person right below the CEO and say, hey, do you want to come start an airline with me, or a cruise line with me, or a mobile company? And he just brings that person in, and that person is in charge of growing the company into a multi-billion-dollar organization. That is high-level delegation, but the principle is still the same. It's finding competent people that you can move the ball forward with.
Exactly. One we'll all be familiar with the name of Warren Buffett. And this is his principle. How has he been, until the recent sort of those IT booms come along with AI and so forth, the wealthiest person in the world is delegating, which gives him the freedom to really work on his business and tune the goals, the ambitions, the dreams. And we all know when you start dreaming, the dreams grow. So how do you grow? You delegate. So that's tremendous. So thank you for sharing all that. So just in moving towards wrapping up, I suppose, sort of looking ahead, I find a challenge, but I think you're probably more immersed in all this space. So perhaps you've got a better insight to it. What sort of future developments and innovations do you see appearing in the realm of AI and particularly virtual staffing, however you want to term that?
I believe that within the next few years. So do you want the good news or the bad news first?
Reality. This is a reality TV.
Yeah, I'll give you the reality. I was at a conference there last month, and I said the same thing to a group of AI enthusiasts. I gave them the bad news first, because I'm in this business, and I'm in the human capital business. And AI has a direct effect on my business. So when I was talking to the audience and they asked me the same question, I told them, I'm like, in the short term, there's going to be massive job displacement. There are going to be millions of people that are out of work. And if there are certain industries that are going to be obsolete, because companies will find they will utilize AI and remove whole workflows that require large organizations and large teams. In the long term, my thinking is that these tools on the individual level will allow people to flourish and be more independent. It'll allow, the small business owner that maybe doesn't have the knowledge or prowess to grow their business to have a consultant, a McKinsey consultant at their fingertips. I give this example of an operations manager within my company. She is fantastic. She does pottery, so she creates these beautiful vases and bowls, and she's super creative, but she doesn't have like a business background per se. And now with ChatGPT and these tools, whenever she wants to scale her business or sell in a different country or figure out like, how do I bring this to market? She just asks ChatGPT and she's able to make like a whole side income off of that. That's the beauty of tools like this. Now, that's a small example. For companies over the next few years, it's going to be very important for them to implement these tools, at least from a productivity standpoint, so they can make their organizations more productive in the long term. I think any company should look into incorporating more AI solutions into their workflow, whether it's their sales cycle, their marketing, and especially customer service. So in the long term, I think that we're all going to be fine. We've had multiple industrial revolutions throughout our history, and industries come and go. People adapt, businesses will adapt. It's just keeping an eye, looking forward and saying what is out there that we can incorporate into our business to provide longevity to it.
That's a good point. I agree with the people who draw the parallels with the 18th century or 19th century with the Industrial Revolution you just referred to, because it was much the same. I think a good example here is free-to-air TV, for example, live TV. Used to be the dominant element of entertainment for us all in our homes. Today, who watches live TV? Streaming came along, and the film industry did somersaults because suddenly their market had literally dried up. But what's happened now? The streaming industry now is bigger than the film studio, and now using all of the actors, all the technicians, all the authors. So there's so many, I suppose, examples currently that are happening. So my belief is very simple. If you try and stay where you are, you make a few little changes, you're going to bump along, but you've probably got a life expectancy that's reducing. Unfortunately, yes. It's like having bad health habits. If you don't do anything, you're going to go down that curve and you're going to disappear, unfortunately.
You're going to be the horse carriage company, the turn of the century when the Model T came out.
It'd be a novelty for tourists, but that's about all. You've got to get on that growth curve, which means really, unfortunately, a bit of hard work, a bit of gristle going into it, bit of muscle, but it's pulling in the team and the help and the services. So I appreciate what you've enlightened me to. It's certainly opened my eyes to a lot more potential, not just for me and I suppose our customers, but people that I know. So I suppose in looking to wrap up, how can people contact you or your organization? Blendi, what's the place to go to?
Definitely. If you want to connect with me directly, LinkedIn is the best place to connect with me. You can just type in my name on LinkedIn. I have a very unique name, fortunately. So it's not a John Smith where you'll have to be going through multiple people. It's Blendi Muriqi on LinkedIn. That's Blendi like a blender. And in terms of if you want to visit our website's delegate.co. I'd be happy to have a discovery call with any potential clients, or if you're just interested in learning more about the intersection of AI and staffing, I'd be happy to discuss that over a call with you.
I really enjoyed learning a lot more about how to grow your AI-enabled team. It's been really, really good. Tell me, I like to twist our guests' arms. Have you got something you can offer our listeners that may like to get a bit better understanding and see you live? See Delegate.co in action.
100%. We, in the beginning, when I first started this business, we offered this trial, and we stopped offering trials a long time ago. But for your listeners, anyone that comes from the show, we're offering a 2-week free trial. So if you've never had an executive assistant before, you've never used overseas staffing solutions, just mention Brian and we'll give you a 2-week free trial.
Brilliant. Blendi, been lovely chatting to you. We could carry on for ages, but I know that where you are at the moment, it's nearly 2 o'clock in the morning. So Thank you for keeping those matchsticks to keep your eyes open. Really enjoyed chatting to you. I look forward to talking to you again. I think we should catch up, maybe a year down the track and just have a refresher and say, where are we now? Because that's going to be particularly interesting. Any last comments you want to make, which we've perhaps overlooked in my interrogation of you today?
No, I think conversation was really great, and I hope that the audience gets a lot of value out of it. Times are changing, and all these conversations are what keep creativity in everyone's mind. And the more conversations like this we have, the better off we'll all be. So it's a collaborative effort. Yeah, look forward to having more conversations like this in the future.
Fantastic. So take advantage of the opportunity, everybody. Delegate.co. And if you want to learn more or get a free trial, contact Blendi or go to his LinkedIn. So to all of you, thanks very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this. Do let us know if you'd like more or any comments or observations. Always love to hear it. And look forward to catching up with you again when we have our next franchise radio show. So from Blendi and I, it's cheerio for now.
Bye-bye.
That's it for now. Be sure to check out Brian Keen's website and social media for more great insights. Thanks for listening, and I hope you find this episode as valuable as I did.